The stars outside the ship's window looked calm, but inside the Odyssey Dawn, tension filled the air. Captain Alina Morrow stood at the main observation deck, staring out into space. In the distance, a blue and green world shimmered under twin suns. This was Zorelia, home of the most feared alien species in the known galaxy, the Zurel. No human ship had ever returned from Zorelia. Those who tried to speak with the Zorelian queen never sent a message back. The alien hive empire was ancient, powerful, and cold. Other species avoided them. They didn't trade. They didn't talk. They conquered now. Alina was going there, not to fight, not to spy. She was going to give them a gift. It was Earth's last chance. 3 weeks earlier, the Zorelian fleet had entered the space near Terra Nova, the first human colony beyond Pluto. The Zorelians didn't answer calls. They didn't attack either. They just watched, silently. That alone was terrifying. The Earth Alliance knew this behavior from other species. It meant the Zorelians were measuring, deciding if a new species was worth keeping or wiping out. The Galactic Council couldn't help. The other alien races feared the Zorelian queen. They refused to step in. One ambassador simply said, "If you want to live, impress her." No one knew how. Captain Morrow sat in the briefing room, surrounded by scientists, historians, diplomats, and even a poet. The room buzzed with panic. "They don't care about weapons," said Admiral Sheng. "They've seen better." "Don't care about technology," added Dr. Kana, a linguist. "They are older than our solar system. Then what do they care about?" Alina asked. Silence. Then an old historian named Professor Chowdhury whispered, "Maybe they care about something they've forgotten." That idea lit a spark. For 2 weeks, Alina worked with artists and memory engineers. They searched Earth's cultures for something simple, something honest, something that showed who humans really were. They found it in a child's toy from centuries ago, a music box now. Alina held that small, handcrafted object in her hand as her ship approached the Zorelian homeworld. The music box was no weapon, no code, just an old Earth lullaby recorded on tiny brass pins. The gears had to be wound by hand. When opened, the box would play a soft, gentle tune, something a mother would play to help a baby sleep. To most, it was nothing. But that was the point. The Odyssey Dawn reached orbit and waited for an hour. No signal came. Then a sharp sound cut through the silence, high-pitched frequency not meant for human ears. The crew winced. Machines translated it. One human, only. No weapons, no lies. "Bring your offering." Alina stepped into the landing pod alone. She wore a simple white uniform. No armor, no weapons, just a translation chip and the music box. Doors closed behind her. Pod detached. Gravity vanished as she dropped through alien skies. Zorelia was not like Earth. The sky was dark green. The land below glowed with bioluminescent forests and black crystal towers. Strange flying creatures circled the city as the pod descended into a giant hive structure that looked like a mountain carved by insects. The landing pad was quiet. No, guards, just one Zorelian drone tall, with 6 thin limbs and shining black armor. Its eyes glowed pale green as it looked at her. It didn't speak, just turned and walked. She followed. They moved through twisting halls made of living stone. The air was thick and sweet, like flowers mixed with smoke. Other drones watched from the shadows, but none moved. Finally, they entered the crystal court. A huge dome opened before her, filled with green-blue light that shimmered through crystals hanging from the ceiling like icicles. Strange glowing symbols pulsed on the walls. Drones stood in perfect stillness around the room, hundreds of them, and in the center, sitting on a throne made of what looked like bone and glass, was the Zorelian queen. She was enormous, at least 12 feet tall, with wide segmented arms and long folded wings. Her head was crowned with twisted horns, and her mandibles clicked softly as she watched Alina. Her eyes were ancient. Not cold, not cruel, but filled with something worse. Boredom. She had seen everything, and she didn't expect this human to show her anything new. Alina stepped forward, heart racing, legs stiff. Ooh, she didn't kneel. She reached into her small pack and pulled out the music box. This, she said softly, is our offering. A whisper ran through the drones, more vibration than sound. The queen leaned forward slightly. Clicking her claws, Alina placed the music box on the crystal floor, slowly wound it up, flipped the lid open. The sound was small, delicate. A simple melody floated into the silent chamber. It echoed off the crystal walls, soft and slow, full of warmth. Notes danced like snowflakes in the air. The Zarelian drones didn't move, their heads tilted. The queen froze. Her limbs, which had shifted every few seconds, now held perfectly. Still, her breathing stopped. Her eyes locked onto the tiny spinning cylinder, as if she were seeing a ghost. The music continued, note after note, sweet and calm. Filled the room. One of the drones let out a low hum, matching the tune. Another joined. Then silence again. The queen had not moved. Not a word, not a breath. Alina stood still, barely daring to blink. Had she offended them? Or had she shown them something they didn't understand? The melody slowed. The final note rang out like a bell in deep water. Then nothing. Silence. Alina waited. Still the queen did not move. She didn't attack. She didn't dismiss. She just stared, frozen. The chamber held its breath. Suddenly a high chime echoed from the far side of the court. Small drone, different from the others, smaller, sleeker, scuttled in. It carried the music box gently in its claws and brought it back to the queen. She did not touch it. She didn't have to. She just looked at it, and then she spoke. Her voice was deep, layered, almost like a song itself. Where did you find this memory? Alina's eyes widened. The queen had spoken in English. Captain Alina Morrow stood silently in the middle of the great Zarelian throne chamber. Her hands were still by her sides. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her face showed calm. She did not move. Across the court, the Zarelian queen remained completely still. Her large insect-like body shimmered under the glowing crystal light. The soft echo of the music box's final note still seemed to float in the air. Then the queen had spoken in perfect English. Where did you find this memory? The court remained silent. Even the guards, the drones, the watchers, none of them moved or made a sound. Every eye was on Alina. Alina took a small breath. Her throat was dry. This music box, she said slowly, clearly comes from Earth, from one of our oldest cultures. It was made hundreds of years ago. It is not a weapon. It is not a tool. It is a feeling. The queen blinked slowly. Her long, sharp fingers reached out and gently touched the music box, still open on the small platform in front of her. She didn't press any buttons. She didn't open the mechanism. She simply placed one claw near it and stood still. Why does it speak to me? The queen asked. Her voice was no longer bored. It was confused, almost curious. The sound echoed through the hall like a cold breeze through stone. Alina looked up at her. Maybe because your people once had music too. The queen's eyes narrowed. We have no music. We never had. We are born for silence and command. Harmony is survival. Sound is noise. Then why did you freeze? Alina asked gently. Why did your people stop moving? Why are they still listening? The queen turned her head slightly. Her drones, still surrounding the court, had not moved. Their heads were tilted, their glowing eyes staring at the box. They are confused, the queen said. They do not know what they feel. Feel, Alina asked carefully. So, they do feel something. The queen didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked back to her throne. Minutes passed in silence. Alina didn't speak again. She didn't want to push too far. She remembered the warning. Impress her. Don't insult her. Finally, the queen raised her voice again. In our deepest memory cells, there are shapes, echoes, do not understand. Some are images of wind or color or movement. Some are sounds, like the one you brought. Alina's heart jumped. She stepped forward slowly. That's called memory. You carry it from your ancestors, even if your people forgot. Why would we forget? The queen asked. Maybe, Alina said, because your people changed. You became stronger, more united. But something old remained inside you, a part you sealed away. The queen was quiet for a long time. The room was thick with tension. You speak of weakness, she finally said. Emotion, distraction. These things break unity. Alina shook her head. Not always. Sometimes they create strength of a different kind. Music isn't just sound, it's connection. Between people, between moments. The queen looked at her again. Humans fight, but they also sing. They suffer, but they also create. We remember things with stories, songs, and gifts. That's what makes us more than just animals. We are not perfect, but we try to remember what matters. There was a long silence. The queen tapped the music box lightly, and it began to play again. The soft, slow melody filled the chamber once more. This time, some of the drones began to hum a strange sound, not like human voices, but close. It was like a soft vibration, deep and gentle. Alina stared in awe. They were copying the tune. They were remembering suddenly. A loud crack echoed through the chamber. One of the drones in the back snapped, speared against the floor, and shouted something in the Zarelian tongue. It sounded angry. Others followed. Some drones backed away from the music. Some covered their ears. Some began to hiss. The queen raised a hand. They stopped immediately, but the feeling in the room had changed. There was fear. One drone stepped forward. His body was larger than the others. His armor had sharp red marks, perhaps a commander. He spoke in English, his voice rough and forced. This gift is dangerous. It breaks the stillness. It weakens the hive. The queen said nothing. Alina stepped forward. It doesn't weaken you. It wakes you up. Silence. The drone shouted. You will not poison us with your human confusion. The queen raised her hand again. This time her voice cut through like steel. She brings no poison. The room fell silent again. Then, to everyone's surprise, the queen stood from her throne. All drones knelt at once, except the red-marked one, who stayed standing. You doubt me? The queen asked. He did not answer, but his body was stiff. His claws flexed. Then go, she said coldly. Leave my court. Return to the deep chambers. And remember your place. The drone hissed, then turned and marched out with several others following. A schism had begun. After they left, the queen turned back to Alina. You have done something no other species has done. You touched something inside us that was buried for ages. Alina didn't know what to say. Tell me, the queen said. What do humans hope to gain by bringing us this gift? Peace, Alina answered, and understanding. We don't want to fight you, want to learn. The queen studied her for a moment, then spoke slowly. You will not be harmed. You will remain here. You will teach us what this music is, what emotion means, what memory is. Alina blinked. You want me to stay? Yes, for now. You are not a prisoner. You are a voice. One we lost long ago. Later, Alina was taken to a private chamber, not a cell, but a simple stone room filled with glowing light and cushions. She was given food alien, but edible. She sat quietly, thinking about what had just happened. The queen had not destroyed her. The music had done something impossible. It had moved the unmovable. And yet, Alina felt uneasy. Some of the Zarelians were not pleased. Some feared what had been awakened. And the queen, she had spoken of memories, of a song deep inside her. Could it be that this exact melody had once belonged to the Zarelians themselves? Was it not a human gift after all? It's a return. Alina opened her small journal and began writing. She knew now this mission was far from over. She had brought a gift. But what she had really given them was a seed of something powerful and possibly dangerous. Captain Alina Morrow woke to the sound of humming. At first, she thought it was the music box again, but when she opened her eyes, the box was closed. The room was dim and filled with soft green light. She sat up slowly. The humming was coming. From outside her door, low, rhythmic, almost like a song. She stood, walked to the door, and placed her hand on the smooth stone. There was no handle. Zarelian doors opened on command or by some strange organic signal. After a moment, it opened. Outside stood 3 small drones. Unlike the guards she had seen before, these looked younger, slimmer, less armored. They were holding strange instruments, glowing with soft blue light. One of them pressed a hand to its chest and made a gesture. It was a greeting. Alina smiled, gently, and nodded. "Hello?" The drones made chirping sounds, then pressed the instruments to their necks. A translated voice echoed from a small speaker. "We, wish to learn, the song." Alina blinked in surprise. "You want me to teach?" "You." They nodded. One stepped forward and placed a crystal pad on the floor. A small hologram of the music box's tune began to play, like notes floating in the air. The drones tried to hum along, copying the melody. Their sounds weren't perfect, but they were trying, for a race that once valued only silence and obedience. This was something new. Alina spent the next hour teaching them the basic parts of music's sound, rhythm, pause. The drones recorded every note, every breath. They were fast learners, curious, almost childlike. As they practiced, more drones arrived. Some stood back, watching quietly. Others joined in. Word had spread. The song was changing the hive. Later that day, a message came. A drone with silver markings led her back to the queen's chamber. This time the court was smaller. Many drones were missing. The queen sat on her throne, but her posture was different, less rigid. "You are changing us," she said. "I didn't." "Mean to?" Alina replied softly. "But it is done," the queen said. "We have begun to remember." Alina stepped forward. "What exactly are you remembering?" The queen looked at her for a long moment, then raised a claw. A large crystal at the center of the chamber began to glow. Images appeared, ancient, rough, like broken memories. Scenes of insect-like beings dancing in circles. Strange drums. Flickers of light pulsing in patterns. Tall female Zarelian, holding a curved instrument that looked almost like a harp. And in the background, a tune. Very soft, very old, very familiar. Alina's heart stopped. It was almost the same lullaby, this. "It's from before the hive," the queen said. "From when we were many minds, many voices." "You had music?" Alina whispered. The queen nodded slowly. "Long ago, before war, before silence. What happened?" "We evolved," the queen said simply. "We became one. And in unity. We destroyed what we called distraction." "But it wasn't a distraction," Alina said. "It was a part of who you were." "Yes," the queen replied, her voice almost quiet. "And perhaps, we lost something we should not have." Suddenly, a loud alarm rang through the chamber. Red lights flashed on the walls. The queen's head snapped to the side. "They come." "Who?" Alina asked. The queen stood.
"The
"Old guard. The deep minds. They reject the change." Before Alina could speak, the chamber doors burst open. A dozen warrior drones entered, heavily armored. Eyes glowing red dot at their front stood the same commander who had opposed the music. "We warned you," he hissed in his native tongue. "The infection spreads. We must cleanse it." "You forget your place," the queen said sharply. The commander did not kneel. "You are no longer the mind we serve." The queen raised a claw, but the commander was faster. He signaled, and chaos broke loose. Drones from both sides clashed inside the court. Some tried to protect the queen. Others attacked with sharp limbs and electric spears. Alina ducked behind the throne as sparks flew. One of the young drones who had learned music ran to her side. "Come," it said, grabbing her hand. "Wait. We must escape." They raced through hidden tunnels under the court as the sounds of battle echoed above. The drone led Alina deep into the hive. The halls grew darker, older, more organic. Vines covered the walls. Strange glowing fungi lit their path. "Where are we going?" Alina asked between breaths. "To the memory wells," the drone said. "The oldest place, the place where the queen first heard the sound." After several turns and drops, they arrived. The chamber was wide and quiet. Pools of silver liquid covered the floor, and above them ancient crystals floated. Humming softly, the air was warm and full of whispers. Alina stepped toward the largest. Pool reflections danced across its surface images, sounds, echoes of the past. As she knelt beside it, a vision formed. A younger Zarelian queen, not yet crowned, sitting alone by a pool just like this. She hummed a soft melody, the same one Alina had brought. A mother stood beside her older, gentle, smiling. She placed a hand on the child's head and whispered, "This is our last gift. Never forget." Then the image vanished. Alina sat back in shock. The melody wasn't just similar. It was Zurelia. It had been passed down in secret, hidden seed, buried in their DNA, their dreams, their old machines. And somehow, it had made its way to Earth. Maybe through ancient contact. Maybe through the stars themselves. It wasn't just a gift from humans. It was a reminder. A lost memory returned behind her. The young drone placed the music box on the floor. It wound it slowly. The melody began again, echoing softly through the chamber. Crystals above responded, vibrating, glowing, humming in harmony. The memory wells, remembered. And something changed. Moments later, the queen entered the chamber, limping, her armor scratched. Alina ran to her side. "You're hurt." "I will heal," she said. "The commander has fled, but others will rise." "You need to tell them the truth," Alina said. "Show them this place. Let them remember." The queen looked at the wells, then at the young drone. "They already are." Across Aurelia, strange things began to happen. Drones started humming. During work, old machines activated themselves and played notes no one had heard in centuries. Colors returned to the city walls. Some drones even began to draw. The hive was changing, but not all welcomed it. Deep below, in the old tunnels, the commander and his followers planned their next move. "This song is poison," he growled. "Let it out, root and stem. Even if we must burn the wells." And with him stood others thousands. The old minds were waking up, and they would not go quietly. The queen stood in the middle of the memory wells chamber, her body tense, her thoughts racing. The silver pools below still shimmered with old visions. The soft tune from the music box played in the background, but it could not calm the storm. Inside her, beside her, Captain Alina Morrow watched quietly. She could feel the tension in the air like lightning before a storm. "They will come for this place," the queen said softly. "The commander will not stop." Alina nodded. "Then we have to be ready." "Aye." The young drone who had guided Alina here stepped forward. "We are not many. We have no weapons." "We have memory," the queen replied, and a voice. "May be enough." All across the upper hive, word was spreading. The queen had remembered, and now, so had others. Some drones began painting symbols on walls, symbols from the past. Others sang low songs as they worked. Even the guards at the outer gates hesitated when given new orders. But the hive was splitting. The old guard, led by the commander, had begun forming a resistance. They called themselves the Silencers. To them, music was poison, memory was weakness. They believed the queen was no longer fit to rule. They wanted silence to return, and they were preparing for war. Alina walked through the corridors, beside the queen, observing the strange transformation. In one chamber, drones gathered to listen to a recording of the music box. In another, they sat in circles, mimicking rhythms with claws and clicking sounds. It felt like something ancient was being born again. But danger was growing too. The queen stopped at a large, dark crystal near the center of the hive. It pulsed, with slow, heavy light. "This is the heart of the hive," she said. "If the Silencers reach this, they will control all drone minds." Alina frowned. "Can't we protect it?" "Not by force," the queen said. "They are too many." Alina paused. Then she said, "Then let's reach their minds first." Later that day, Alina stood on a high platform in front of a large crowd of drones, some loyal, some unsure. The queen had given her permission to speak directly to the hive. The music box sat beside her, open and ready. Alina cleared her throat. I know many of you are afraid. You feel something strange, something you don't understand. I felt it too. The crowd was quiet. This feeling is not weakness, she said. It's memory. It's who you were, who you still are. She opened the music box. The soft melody filled the space. Some drones flinched. Others leaned forward. I didn't come here to conquer you. I came here because I believed there was more to your people than war and silence, and I was right. She pointed to the queen. She remembers. So do your brothers, and so do you. One drone in the front stepped forward. But what if we are not meant to feel? You already do, Elena said. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Far below, in the dark tunnels, the commander listened to a secret recording of Elena's speech. His face was hard. Hands clenched into fists. She poisons the hive, he growled. How we move tonight. The silencers had gathered a great force, thousands of drones ready to march. They would strike the queen's court, destroy the memory wells, and shut the heart of the hive before the infection of music spread any further. They had one goal: erase the past. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony outside her chamber, staring at the glowing hive towers around her. Soft lights moved inside like fireflies. Somewhere below, she could still hear drones humming the song, but she also saw shadows moving in the distance. She knew they were coming. The queen joined her quietly. They march, she said. I can feel it through the hive's veins. We can't stop them, Elena said. Not by force. No, the queen agreed, but maybe we can change them before they arrive. The next morning, as the sun rose over the hive's tallest towers, something strange happened. From every wall, every corner of the city, new sound began to rise. It wasn't just the music box anymore. It was voices. Drones had learned the melody. They had added to it clicks, tones, vibrations. The tune echoed across the hive like a living river of sound. It was beautiful. It was impossible to ignore. The silencers, marching toward the queen's chamber, paused in their steps. Many stopped. Some turned their heads in confusion. Some lowered their weapons. It was working. But the commander would not be moved. He screamed orders, pushing forward, leading a group straight toward the heart of the hive. Silence them. Destroy the source. A battle began. But this time, it was different. Some drones who had come with the silencers suddenly refused to fight. Others dropped their weapons. Some even began to hum the melody right there in the middle of battle. The commander was furious. He charged forward alone, claws raised, sparks flying. He burst into the heart chamber and found the queen waiting. She stood in the center of the room, her body glowing with inner light. Surrounded by young drones and humming crystals, the music filled the air. I warned you, the commander hissed. You have become weak. No, the queen said. I have become whole. He leaped forward, but stopped. Elena stepped in front of him, holding the music box. She pressed the button. The melody played. This time louder than ever. The commander screamed, but something inside him twitched. His body froze. His eyes widened. His breathing slowed, and then he fell to his knees. No, he whispered. I remember. The queen stepped forward and placed a claw gently on his shoulder. You were not always silent, she said. You were once my brother. You sang with me when we were small. He trembled. We were told to forget, but we couldn't, she whispered. Tears dashed strange. Glowing tears fell from the commander's eyes. I am sorry. Word of the commander's surrender spread quickly. The fighting stopped. Drones across the hive dropped their weapons and began to hum the old melody. The silencers were no longer an army. They were listeners, and slowly became part of the song. That evening, Elena stood beside the queen on the tallest platform of the hive. The sun painted the sky with gold, and blue dot below, the entire city sang in harmony. The queen turned to her and spoke softly. You gave us a gift. No, Elena said. I gave back what you already had. They stood in silence for a while, listening. Then the queen said, "Will you return to your people?" "Not yet," Alina said with a smile. "I think we have more music to write." 3 months had passed since the last battle. The hive was no longer the same. Once the Zarelian world had been filled with silence, cold commands, and mechanical order. Now, music echoed from every chamber, every tunnel, every mind. The hive had changed not just in sound, but in spirit. And at the center of it all stood the human captain, Alina Morrow. She had arrived on a broken ship, carrying a small music box and a message of peace. Now, she was known across the planet as the bringer of memory. But even as the hive thrived in its rebirth, Lena knew her time here was coming to an end. Earth was calling, the queen invited Alina to the central Garden A place that hadn't existed until recently. Zarelian drones had begun growing things again. Strange silver leaf plants, glowing vines, and crystal flowers that sang when touched by the wind. It was their way of showing emotion, of creating beauty. Alina walked slowly among the garden paths. A few young drones followed her, playing handmade instruments they'd built from old hive parts. The queen stood by a large pool, watching the sky. "You're leaving soon," she said. Alina nodded. "Earth will want to know what happened here. I have a duty." "We understand," the queen said. "But you will always be part of our story." Alina smiled. "And you'll always be in mine." Before her departure, a great celebration was planned, something the Zarelians had never done before. Not for war, not for victory, but for hope. They called it the Day of the First Note. Drones from every part of the hive gathered in the grand chamber. Crystals hung like stars from the ceiling. Music played in waves, some of it traditional, some completely new, and at the heart of it all stood a stage. Alina was invited to speak. She stepped onto the platform, the music box in her hand. The crowd fell silent, not in fear, but in deep attention. "I came here by accident," she said, her voice strong and calm. "But I believe this was always meant to happen." She looked at the queen. "Once you were told to forget your past, but you didn't. Not truly. It lived in your hearts, waiting for a spark." She held up the music box and pressed the button. The lullaby played one last time. "But now, you don't need this anymore. You've made your own songs." Alina bowed her head. "Thank you for listening to me. But more than that, thank you for listening to yourselves." After the speech, the queen walked onto the stage. For the first time in recorded history, she sang. Not with words. Not with power, but with feeling. The hive sang with her. A chorus of voices, vibrations, memories, and hope filled the chamber like waves of light. Alina closed her eyes. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. The next day, the ship from Earth arrived sleek, white, and silent. The humans who came were shocked by what they found. An alien civilization transformed by art, not weapons. By music, not technology. They had expected war. They found wonder as Alina prepared to board the ship. The queen approached her with a final gift. It was a crystal orb, small, smooth, and glowing softly. "What is it?" Alina asked. "A memory." The queen said, "Your song, our song, the sound of our rebirth. It will play only when it feels your touch." Alina held the orb close. "Thank you." The queen paused. "Will we meet again?" Alina smiled. The stars are big, but music travels far. As the human ship lifted into the sky, drones all across the hive looked upward, some raised instruments. Others simply hummed the lullaby that had changed everything. High above the clouds, Lena watched the hive shrink below. She could still hear the music in her mind. Months passed. Alina returned to Earth as a hero. The world was stunned by her story. No one had ever seen such a transformation, an entire alien species embracing something so human, yet so universal. She spoke at conferences, was interviewed by world leaders, and her music box was placed in a museum, but she never gave them the crystal orb that she kept close, a memory that belonged to her and to the queen. One day, years later, as she sat alone watching the stars, the orb began to glow in her hand, and a new melody played. Not the lullaby, something else. Stronger, brighter, alive. It was the sound of the hive, singing back.